Hello, everyone. So welcome to Meet and Zoom. We are getting ready to embark on, unfortunately, a new way of doing teaching, the distance learning. In spring, it was nice that we didn't have a whole lot tied to it. Obviously, beginning of the year, we will be having a whole lot tied to it. So I will try to go through this presentation as easily as we can. And so get some housekeeping stuff out of the way. Session is being recorded, like always. The link that you have will be to the live session, will also be to the recorded session. That session stays there for about 30 days, but I am downloading and re-uploading them to our teaching and learning YouTube site. So you can go back as many times as you want and watch it. There's a Q&A down in the bottom right. If you don't see it, make sure that you're signed into YouTube. And that's where, if you have questions or comments or suggestions, feel free to put it out there. Excuse me. We've got Stephanie Grady and Wayne Holmgren backstage, and they're able to answer questions, and they'll interrupt when they need to, and feel free to interrupt with questions that maybe I don't see, because I don't get to see everything. There's a Google Classroom code that'll be presented in a minute. And if you haven't been into the Google Classroom, go ahead and log into that, because that's where one of the places you'll have access to the slide deck, as well as at the end we'll have a reflection for clock hours. My suggestion is to maybe go split your screen, so you have what we're doing, what we're showing on one side of your screen, and then you actually going into Zoom and Meet and being able to follow along and change some settings and do what we need to do. The outcomes is that we're gonna experience both platforms, Google Meet and also Zoom. I may call it Google Meets, plural, and I may call it Google Meet, singular. They have taken the S off over the course of the last few months. So I'm getting used to changing Meets to Meet. And yeah, so let's get started. And we're going to try to make this as close to an hour as we can. I'm going to present my screen here, and boom, away we go. So basically, type that over there. Basically, they're both good platforms. Maximum participants, I'm still trying to find out the maximum for our version in Zoom. In Meet is 100 is the free version. It's 250 through the 30th of this month. I suspect that because of the pandemic, Google may decide to extend that out. There's no guarantee on that, though. Maximum number of participants, I believe, is 100 also, but it could be 300 in Zoom. I haven't gotten a real good connection with Zoom. Their salesperson has been iffy at best with giving me information. I'm not quite sure why. There is a time limit. In Zoom, you have 40-minute classes for the free version. For 60 minutes is the Meet, but through the end of September is 24 hours. So you could essentially have a Google Meet session open for more than an hour through the end of September. But up until after that, it'll be 60 minutes. And again, Zoom is 40 minutes. They both record meetings. I would caution you there. I would recommend not recording the meetings, because the law basically states that if a student is recognizable, and that could be visual, it could be audible, then we could be put in a really poor position. Double check with your building administrator, but my understanding is the district is not recommending that we record meetings. So keep that in mind. They both share screens, and they both share screens pretty much the same. There's closed caption in Zoom. You have to have somebody actually typing in what is being said. We're in Google Meet. It is voice activated. So you could be speaking, and it's pretty good. It's not 100%. If you have an accent, if you combine some words, if you use some colloquial words, then it may not know that, and so it's going to do the best it can. And sometimes it's pretty interesting what it comes out with. The number of participants on your screen, there's the grid view, 49 in Zoom. Right now, 16 is the limit in Meet, but later in September, it will be 49. They're launching that in September. There's a background noise filter in Meet that you can turn on, and students can also turn on. So there's keyboard typing, or doors opening or closing, construction outside. It filters that out in Meet. Zoom does not have that capability as of yet. Both of them do screen sharing. There's a virtual background for both for Zoom. Not yet in Meets. There are some updates coming. We'll go over that. Breakout rooms. Zoom does have breakout rooms. Meet does not at this time. They will be launching that in October. The concern about breakout rooms is that they're unattended. So when I was teaching middle school, there's no way I would allow my students to be in a room unsupervised when they have the feature to be able to chat with each other. And you can't monitor that. I mean, you can go in to that breakout room, and then you can pop out and pop into another one, pop out, pop into another one, but you can't be in all breakout rooms at the same time. So that's going to be user choice. That's your decision. Again, I would also check with your building administrators to see what their guidance is on it. And there's a waiting room in Zoom, which is nice because you have to go in first, and people could be waiting, and then you approve them to come into the classroom. That is not a feature in Meet yet. That will be October. So end of meeting is when you click on end in Zoom, and the option, and you'll see this, is end meeting for everybody. Yes, and so boom, it just breaks the link for everybody. That's not a feature in Meet yet. That's in September. They're polling. So for quiz, a quick assessment, quick quiz, there is a feature in Zoom. However, it is a paid version. I have not, again, I've tried to reach out to our education sales team, and they've been a little cryptic in saying, yes, it is available for Zoom for Education. But on one hand, I hear paid. On the other hand, I hear Zoom for Education and the free version. So I'm not going to say, yes, it is available. However, there's a second asterisk to that, which goes along with Google Meet. There are ways about that. You can do a Google form and do an instant survey. So there are ways to go about that. Chat, individuals in Zoom. Yes, you can chat with an individual. So as a teacher, if I see one student struggling with something, I can make that chat connection with that one particular student. You can't do that in Meet yet. That'll be later in September. And the chat feature for everybody to the whole class, yes, you can in Zoom. Again, not in Meet until September. So that's basically the features that we have. And again, I reached out to Zoom. They have not given me any indication of any updates, but Google has announced that these are coming features in September and October. And then later this year, there are some other features that are also coming. So take a look at that, and that may help you with some of your decisions. In Meet, we're going to go through Meet first because it's quick and easy, and there's a whole lot more settings in Zoom that we'll need to dive into. So we'll get Meet first. It is automatically integrated into Google Classroom. And so how do you do that? If you have a classroom created, you'll see it both at on your main header where it says the Meet link, and also in your stream. And you also have it if you went into classwork, both you and the students have an icon for the Meet. And if you've not set up a classroom, if you don't have it turned on, you would go to the gear in Classroom, and the next thing we'll do is go and turn it on. So when you click on the gear, you'll get a window that has the class details, and I will probably model this. Let me do that now. Sorry, I didn't have this one set up already. So my professional development. So like I said, there's your Meet there. If I go into classwork, it's not turned on. So that's why we don't see it. So we're going to go to the gear, and we're going to scroll down to general, and then there's at the bottom, it may say that you need to activate it or get the code. So click on that, and then you'll look like this. Right now it's visible to students. No, it's turned off. So when I turn that on, it is now going to be visible to students. Don't forget to save. And so when I save it, I now have my Meet available to all students and myself, both in the classwork and the stream. Notice the icon changed. Okay. So let me go over here to my presentation so I know where I'm at. So once we click on the link, we'll get this page. And this is where we mute. I'm going to mute mine right now. This is where we turn on or off the camera. And our hot dogs will give us a few more options. You can turn on, this is where you would turn on the captions. So my mute is on. And I will be, mute is off. I need to get into the conference first. My settings is primarily for audio and video. I can change my microphone if I have an external microphone, and my speakers also. And the same thing true for my my video. And this is where I could go, and if I had my my document camera, it would connect to that. If I have some filters, which we can talk about offline, I would have that also. And where I can report a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and join. It will come up with the window that says that this is your class code, and that's fine. At least now you know what it looks like. Now we're going to take a look at, before we get in here, I actually want to go through an alternate way of getting into a meeting. So I'm going to hang up. And if I go to meet.google.com, this is an alternate way of getting in. I can join or start a meeting immediately. This pretty picture, here's information on the picture and the artist, and a link to that if you want to know more about the picture. My settings, once again, it's the same thing, video, audio. I can report a problem. I don't have to send a screenshot, or I can choose to report. I would really like to see Meets have this feature, and it will, and they'll listen. Okay, I can join or start a meeting. This is where if I wanted to do something quick, I could say this is my English 1A class. That's 1Z, 1A class. And I can continue. Or I can join if there's a code that I already have. I can put my code in there and I would join that session. But for this sake, I am going to go ahead and put Sandbox Meet and Zoom. I don't like it because of that, I'll bet. Why do you not like me? Let's call it Sandbox. And we still get the same window like we did before, but now I'm going to join. And it tells you what your title is. Okay. So down at the bottom left is the class information. So if you have somebody needing some information, you can get that. There's the phone number. That's just basic stuff. Then we go into our mute, which we can turn on and off. This is our hang up. I don't want to do that yet. And my video, I can turn on or off. Okay, as we go down, here's the closed caption.
I want to remind people as they jump in, for the first time, it's going to ask to use your microphone and camera. And if you decline that, it gets really tricky. Usually you can just reopen Chrome, but it's just best to accept that even if you're not going to be using a camera or microphone, just grab it right away. And that's the permissions that the computer gives.
Thank you, Wayne. You just totally showed off the closed captioning. He said Chrome, but closed captioning read from. So again, it's close. It's not 100%, but it is close. I'm going to turn it off though. I don't know how far up the screen the closed caption goes. You may want to play with that. The next button is present, and we'll go over that in a little bit. And then the hot dogs, and we'll go through those in a little bit. Up here in the top right says participants. When I click on that, it gives me a list of my participants. And this is where I can mute or unmute students. It will default to a grid view. Well, we'll go over that in a second. It'll default to having your list of students here. You can choose to mute them. You can pin them, which means that you will always see that person on your screen. That's probably not something you normally want to do. And there's the chat to the whole class. So you can talk to only the whole class. I said no, it's yes, there is. Okay. And in here, this pins yourself, your screen. So if there were more participants in here, then I would still only see myself. I don't want to only see myself. I want to see who's presenting, who's talking. So I'm typically keep this unpinned. So with the hot dogs, we'll go through that real quick. You can change your layout. And what that basically does is it will auto detect what a layout. I typically have mine set to tiled, which is also called grid. And then that way you would see your participants in a grid view. When it comes time that they present, the grid view could go to you go to sidebar. It will automatically change that. Unfortunately, you have to keep going in and changing it. If you want to make some changes, you don't just change it and then get to move on again. But I do have mine set to auto. If I want to go full screen, I can click on the full screen. My captions, another place to turn on captions. My settings, again, this is the audio video. If audio is an issue, you can always use your phone, and so this would would have you call on your phone so that you would use your phone as the audio if your computer audio is not that good. Again, our report a problem, report abuse. If there's abuse that's happening, you shouldn't see a lot of abuse other than maybe within your students, and then that's a you and building issue. But there shouldn't be a lot of outsiders coming into your meeting. If you do see that, you can report the abuse, and then there's a nice help section. Basically, that is, in a nutshell, Meet. There are, again, a couple ways. I'm going to hang up here. There are a couple ways to go to Meet, and that is going to meets.google.com. Down in your waffle is the Meet icon. Okay, so there are multiple ways of getting into Meet. Oh, one thing I didn't do is sharing the screen. So let's go back in here. Thank you for the reminder. So when I go to present, I'm given a bunch of options. I can do my whole screen, which is literally that, everything on your screen. So when you're presenting, if you have your window is smaller than your whole desktop, then so I'm going to do that here. Say screen one. I have 2 monitors, so that's what it's seeing. So now when I present the whole screen, not only are you seeing my screen here, but you're seeing all of the stuff that I have off on my desktop. Maybe I don't want that to be shown to everybody. So presenting a whole screen may not be what you want to do. That's not what I want to do. I just want to do a window. A window is this whole window here, tabs included. So I can click from one tab to another, and that's what your participants or students would see. So if I say a window, I can say, okay, yeah, this is the one that I want to do. It's going to be right here, and I'm going to share that. And now as I click through, you're also seeing me click through my tabs. You don't see the clutter that I have on the desktop. You only see my tabs. Okay. The third option is a Chrome tab. This gets a little tricky because if you are like me and you've got tons of tabs open, pay no attention to the number. Actually, I've enclosed about 4 windows with them. I can choose the exact tab that I want. So in this case, I'm going to say professional development, which is this tab right up here. And I'm going to click on share. And you're going to see my classroom. When I click on another tab, oh, why did that happen? Well, that's interesting. Presenting to everyone. So now let me go do a tab. And this worked yesterday when I tried it out even. I'm going to do this one. It is only a tab. I'm going to share my audio, which is important, especially if I have a video. Sharing this tab. So you should see this tab. But you're seeing that tab too. Probably because I'm presenting in StreamYard, and StreamYard is taking over what I am. That's it. So StreamYard is taking over what I'm showing, but when you're actually in your Meet session, you will not, participants will not, your students will not see the other tabs when you when you present that way. Good to know. I did not try that with StreamYard. So,
And I think one of the advantages to just doing a tab is if you get notifications, sometimes you don't want, depending on how integrated your computer is, you don't want a phone number coming up or a message from somebody or that kind of thing too. So sometimes the tabs might help limit that, as well as a do not disturb setting.
yes, yes, good point. Okay. So in the slide deck, you'll also have over there, you'll also have some resources that are available to you. Basically, that's Meet in a nutshell. It's pretty intuitive. There's not a lot to set up, not a lot to hide behind. So any questions with Meet thus far? Your title is covering what you were trying to show. Thank you.
That was a while ago.
So did you get rid of that banner? Looks
Yep.
like you did.
Yep. Banner free.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Do we have a release like?
Sorry to jump in again. One other thing I did notice is sometimes on the calendar, Google Meet sets up a meeting when you didn't necessarily plan on it. And I know sometimes we've had Zoom meetings that have also had Google Meet meetings in the calendar that you didn't necessarily set up. Google was just being helpful. So be a little careful of that, because your students will probably click on one when you meant the other one. I didn't say that very clearly, but be a little careful that Google Meets get set up kind of automatically. Even if you don't ever start them, nobody will ever see anything when they click there, but they might be confused.
Right. So, Corey Joe, good question. Could we have a release like we do for taking pictures of students? The issue becomes that you're in their home. So typically when they're in school and you video in school, you're in the school environment, you're on the school grounds, you've got school, classroom, gym, outdoors, whatever. So it is all within the confines of Shiloh School District. You're now in their homes. And so that becomes a little bit of a slippery slope. It's a good question. I think it needs to be looked into, though. Again, I would definitely talk to your building administrators to see if what they or the district want to do. But this is all new territory for all of us, unfortunately. There's even concern, which we never have in the classroom. As a parent, and my students doing the Zoom meeting, I'm out of frame, but I'm videoing with my phone the Zoom meeting or the Meet meeting with my child in your class. When a records request is produced, and that a student in your classroom happens to be a part of that, does that also mean now the parent who recorded that is part of the records request? I don't know. I don't know that question. It is a slippery slope. I would err on the side of caution until we get into this a little bit more, unfortunately. But that's just me. But I will take a look at things from the legal side for the district as well. And I know Casey's looking into it. And Brian, I'm sure is also looking into it. So the solid answer is good question. I have no idea. I'm sorry about that one. Okay, so let's get into Zoom. And let's get into Zoom. And we're going to get into best practices. So again, there are a couple ways to get into Zoom. and we'll go through the slide deck a little bit. There should be an icon on your extensions bar, which is just to the right, which is right up here, if you can see. I can zoom in a little bit, no pun intended. Well, anyway, it's this little blue camera. That is the extension. If you click on that, it should ask you to sign in using Google. And when you do, it should give you this window over, this window over here that says you can schedule a meeting, start the meeting with the video on or off. So, and then you also have your gear for editing your settings. Once you click on your settings, then you have a short list of options, which are over here. This is what you'll be looking like. Your meeting ID. Not quite sure why you're not seeing everything. And your security passcode. I would click on waiting room, make sure your waiting room is set up. Again, we'll go over these. Video host is on, a participant is on. That way, whoever's showing up automatically has the video on. Probably don't want to have your students hiding because they may not be there if they're hiding, and you have an icon there as opposed to the actual camera. Audio, excuse me, I would do both telephony and the computer because, again, sometimes your students, if they don't have good internet, they may be able to view, but the audio takes a part of that bandwidth. And so it's easier to call in on the telephone into the Zoom meeting. And if you have questions about that, we can go over that later off of the offline here. I want to go through a bunch of settings. Options that you have here also, the require registration, enable, join before the host. We'll go over all of these. So those are some of your options, including the alternate host. And again, we'll go over all those. So once you can schedule a meeting, which will then should open up a Google Calendar. And in the Google Calendar, you'll have some more options. Some of those options are duplicate, but you can still go through them and just double check. Make sure that you in the calendar, make sure that you give a name of your session, make sure your date is correct. You have the join Zoom meeting. There's that information that's there. It automatically creates that for you. Do you want to be notified? Do you want to be notified of your meeting? And you can say yes or no, and you can schedule minutes, hours, days before the meeting. And then also choose the correct calendar. Make sure that it's on your classroom calendar as opposed to maybe your district calendar. You can add your guests also, so you could add your class there. Below that is all the Zoom information that is needed in the body. So that's basically the calendar setup. Don't forget to click save though when you do that. If you go straight to creating a meeting with the video, I would suggest making sure you have video. Click on the video on, and when you do, a window will appear that has the little checkbox. Always open this window, and you can check that checkbox. And when you click on with video on or with video off, then you're going to bypass this window and then go to this window. It will pop up another window which says Zoom is now opening. Remember, Zoom is a third party. It will take you out of Google. So if you're in a classroom and you have a Zoom meeting, it will then take you out of Google Classroom into the Zoom app. And again, that's how it will open. However, I want to take a look at another alternate way because this is where your settings are going to be. So you have your steps and all of that in blue here with the blue banner box around it. Your alternates will be an A and also a, that's interesting. Will be an A with a black box around it. Go to zoom.us, and this is what we're going to do now. .us, not zoom.com, although you would eventually get there. And you will see, actually, let me sign out. Where do I sign out? How do I sign out? Join the meeting, host a meeting, my account. Sign out. There we go. Okay, so when you go to zoom.us, this is the window that you want to see. Again, you're going to click in the sign in link. And once again, you'll go to sign in with Google. It'll ask you to verify that you are who you are. And now you're in the Zoom settings section. This is the meat of everything. You'll have your upcoming meetings, which I kind of created one so that you would see. Your previous meetings. There are a couple others that I've done. Personal meeting room and templates, don't worry about those two. You can schedule a meeting from here. Again, when you go there, it takes you to a scheduler. We'll go over that in a minute. You can join a meeting. Again, if you have a code, then you just join. Hosting a meeting, quickly turn on, turn off, or share screen only. This is the list of your upcoming sessions. There's a Chrome extension. Don't click download, because if you have the icon up in the extensions bar up here, then you don't need to click on this. If you don't see it up there, I would say put a ticket in, because every teacher should have, every student should also have. I'll double check on the student. Every teacher will have or should have this icon up here. That's something that Casey has pushed out to all teachers. So just be aware that if you don't see it, I would put a ticket in. I would not click this one. Your two areas over here on the left that we're going to dig into is the profile and the settings. Okay, so let's go to scheduling a meeting first, since that's right up here and it's easy to get to. The main thing is, just like in the Google Calendar, make sure that you title it. Again, you could call it English 1A, you could, 5th grade math, whatever you want to call it. You can choose to put a description if you want. Make sure your dates are correct. You can click on the calendar and then the little pop-up calendar, and you can scroll through. You can put a duration of 1 hour. Remember, the free version is 40 minutes. So it will probably end after 40 minutes. Yeah, that could be an issue. A recurring meeting, just like you have in Google Calendar, you can say, I'm going to do this every, here, I can't. There we go. If I go weekly, and I know that on Mondays and Thursdays are my A sessions, and I'm always going to have this at a certain time. And again, there's your time up here. I'm going to always have it starting at 8:30 a.m. Then I can schedule it, and after I can say it ends, and I can change that to, well, I know that we're going through the end of October. I'm just randomly picking a date. And so I would schedule it every Monday, every Thursday, repeat every week, and it's going to end on October 29th, and it begins at 8:30. So that would be your recurring. Underneath that, the registration, if you click on required, you get an option of they can, when they register, they come into your meeting. From that point on, they can always attend your meeting. Or they have to register every time that they come into your meeting. What this does is it makes sure that they're logged into a district account, that they can get in, that you're only allowing your students in. It's a little bit easier to safeguard by using that one. The third option is, you know that you're going to be doing this Monday and Thursday for and up through September. But if you click on this one, they can only choose just a few. They don't get to choose all of your meetings. So that's really not something that we want to choose. I would recommend using it, register every occurrence. Security, make sure waiting room is on, so that way they're waiting before you come in. Video is on for both the host and the participants. The audio the same. Meeting options, don't choose to enter before, because that means that they're going to actually get in before you, and they could be chatting with each other before you do. Mute the participants, good thing to do, because could be their sibling is crying in the background, or there's a dog barking, or we've had instances where mom and dad were not getting along. So yeah, it's always good to mute before. If you want to pre-assign a breakout room, you can do that. And again, there's the record automatically. I would not choose that. If you're co-teaching and you want a co-teacher or somebody else to also be a host, so that the two of you can do everything together as a host, then you would choose that and click on save. Okay, so that's the scheduling meeting.
Hey, earlier we were talking about the 40-minute time.
Yes.
Corey Joe asked if is the district looking at all at purchasing so that we can up that time? And I was wondering if education already had a deal on the time.
So Google for Education is a paid version. There are only a few licenses in the district. I would, if that's something that is going to hinder you, definitely let your building administrator know, and they will need to work with Casey on purchasing more licenses. It is something that can be done. I think Casey needs to. He has the back end where he can assign Corey Joe. I'm going to pick on you. I'm going to assign Corey Joe a license. I'm going to assign Wayne a license. But Stephanie doesn't get one because she didn't ask for one. So I think that's how it needs to work. So go through your building administrator. If it's something that you are needing and it's going to hinder, then definitely let them know, and we'll try to get on this as quickly as possible. I know that Casey's first charge right now is to get Chromebooks out to all the students. So it may take a week or so to get this on. I know school's coming rather quickly, but very good question on that. Thank you. So on the settings, we're going to go right into settings. So if you click on settings, you'll have another menu off to the left. Let's just click on security, and that will bring you to the security features. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to highlight the waiting room. I would definitely make sure that it's on. By default, it is off. So click that on. You have some waiting room options. You can explore those options and choose what you would like. Another one is require the passcode. I would recommend having that off. Otherwise, they actually have to get that cryptic code from you, the capital K, lowercase j, 1, 3, 0, capital O, and so on. And then they have to actually go in and try to put that in. So I would turn that off. It's on by default. This is on by default also. I've left it on. I haven't seen any real issues. Require the passcode for instant, let's see, the embed. Where's the embed? Again, that is on also by default. I haven't seen any major differences. Only authenticated users can join meetings. Typically that is off. You may want to turn that on so that, again, I would experiment with this. They need to sign into Zoom. If they've signed into Zoom using their school district account, then you're authenticating that they are actually a member of the school district to come into your classroom. I have not turned this on, but that is the way it's supposed to work. So again, I would recommend that this be on. Okay. Any questions on the security piece? I'm going to say doesn't look like it. So let's click on that scheduled meeting section and it'll take you to it. Just a few things in there. The audio type, telephone and computer audio, I think that's the default. So I would leave that as it is. The join before host, this is where you would turn it on. It is by default off. It's recommended that it stay off. Enable personal ID, again, that is default on. I've not seen an issue with that one. Mute participants upon entry. By default, it's off. I would make sure that it is on. These auto save, by the way. So if I click it off, I'll look at the message saying your settings have been saved. Same thing when I click it on. So there isn't a save button, it just automatically does it. Upcoming reminder, that's user choice. If you want to be reminded of a meeting, you can be. By default, it's off. In meeting basic, let's go there. Again, a couple of things. The chat is on by default. You can prevent them from saving the chat. The private chat is on by default. I would turn that off so that way they can't send messages to each other. Just my take on that. The auto-saving chats, I would have that on by default. That's off. That way you can show that here's the chat that went on. So it'll automatically save it. Sound notification, that's a user choice, but I like it on because if somebody shows up late, I'll hear the doorbell or the chime or whatever the sound is. I will hear it, and then that way it lets me know, oh, there's somebody else that I need to let in. Because remember, we're trying to make it to where only you let in those students that you know are supposed to be there. Zoom bombing, this is where Zoom has really tightened things down so that Zoom bombing is not as prevalent as it once was. And again, logging in to Zoom using a Google account helps to prevent a lot of this. So I like having that on so I can let them in.
It's easy to leave people in the waiting room sometimes when you're busy in your meeting. Yes,
yes. Feedback to Zoom, that's on by default. That's fine. Let's see, the co-host, this is where you can turn on and off having a co-host. If you choose to do that. Polling is, excuse me, is by default off. I would turn it on and I would give it a try. So Corey Joe, since I know that you're on, do you see polling as an option on in your settings? Or Stephanie or Wayne? I'm curious because I know that I have a paid license, but I want to see if somebody who doesn't. And so whoever wants to answer that, that would be great. I'd like to know that. So the other options, the screen sharing. Do you want all participants to be able to share their screen, or do you want to be the only one to share the screen? If you choose all participants, who can start? Anyone can start it and kind of hijack, or the host only. So, and this one you do have to save. This setting you do have to save. Annotation is default on, user choice on that. Same thing with the whiteboard. There's a remote control only, so the person who's sharing can allow others to share. So if I'm sharing, if I have this off, then if Wayne wants to kind of hijack my presentation, he can go ahead and start sharing. With remote control, you can control who is going to share. No, Wayne, you can't share yet. I will allow you to do it later on. Meeting reactions, that's on by default, and participants to rename themselves. That is on by default. I would recommend that you turn that off so that Wayne doesn't come up with some name that you have no clue what the reference is to, because they're younger and they're into, sorry, there's a fly flying around in here. They're into all of the TikTok and all of the latest and greatest gadgets and sites and lingo, and we don't have a clue to what they're really referencing. So not allowing them to rename is probably a good idea. That's the recommendation for that. That's pretty much all of those. So if we go to advanced, any questions? None yet. The breakout rooms is off by default. Turn that on, and then I would also choose allow host to assign participants, and that allows you to say, okay, I want these 5 students in this breakout room. I have these 5 in that breakout room, and so on. Or you can just have it randomly choose and move on. Virtual background, that's on by default, and allows use of videos. So you could actually be having a student showing YouTube in the background. Probably want to have that one off. Okay. Filters. Filters is a cool feature for the teacher, probably not for the users, but so I can take a rabbit trail on that later on. Identify guests and participants. It's off by default. I would turn that on so that you can see who's actually coming in. It makes it a little bit easier to regulate who's in your meeting. Also, the show a join browser link, that's off by default. Recommended is on. And that's next to the email sections. There's really nothing in the email sections that I would change. I would just use the default, but that's your choice on those. And true for the other, same thing. I would leave the default, and then you choose what you want to do with that. But I do want to get into the meat of the meeting, no pun intended. So I'm going to host a meeting, and I'm going to have it with the video on. Any questions that aren't answered?
One was just wondering if we could have kind of a cheat sheet of just recommended settings, maybe a one-sheeter.
Yep, there's in the slide deck. Everything that that is recommended or is in the slide deck. So yes, this is step by step.
And on the screen is the Bitly shortened URL to get there.
Yep,
If you
you'll make
haven't already.
and it's forcing you to make a copy so that you always have those settings with you. So,
And then just one other side one was Denise ran into the issue that if somebody used the computer before those kids, they had to rename. So of course, just be cautious. But there are some of those glitches and things that require that.
with going one-to-one where the students have a district Chromebook, by them logging into the Chromebook, they should not have that issue. So another reason why we wanted to go one-to-one, because so many, even myself, my fifth grade high cap students, I had one, half the time I didn't know who he was, and there were quite a few times where I denied him coming in because it was Solar System Joe or something like that. It's like, yeah, I don't know who you are, click. And so then I would get an email from him saying, hey, Solar System Joe is me. It's like, okay, your brother was on. And so that by having the Chromes one-to-one will hopefully eliminate or greatly reduce the issue of having some odd names in there. So, but good point on that.
And also clearing up a couple other former ones. I think Stephanie found that the 40-minute limit is temporarily removed for schools.
Good.
So at least for the moment, that could change. And she didn't see a polling button, but at the end of the meeting was a feedback.
Okay. So I'll dive deeper into the question about if we're going to have more paid versions. So I entered the Zoom, and you can't see that yet because now I need to remove that one and application window, my Zoom meeting, share that. Yep, perfect. So now we're going to get into the meat of the actual meeting. Sorry, those puns were really unintentional. Down in the bottom left, you have your mute button. I'm going to mute. You also have your camera, security, and we'll go over some of these. Your participants, which tells you who's in right now. I only have one person in, me. The chat feature, your sharing, your screen sharing, recording, your breakout rooms. If you don't see your breakout rooms, it's because it's not turned on in your settings. So you'll need to refer back to the settings to have that button show up. Your reactions, where you end your meeting. Up in the top right, if you click on this, it makes your full screen mode versus smaller. And then this is just your meeting information. So and you don't see meeting information. Interesting. Okay, so do you see this? You do not. Okay, so let me try sharing a different way now. Because not the entire screen. Application window. No, that didn't work. So it will be this one. Okay. Cool. So now let me make this bigger so it's easy to see. Okay, so we're going to dive first off with your camera. Again, this is where you can, if you have your document camera connected, which we can go over at another time, it would appear here, and you can choose your document camera. And so it sees your document camera as another camera. And I need to double check. I believe on the Windows, it's Alt N, and you would toggle between your computer camera and your document camera. And on the Mac, I believe it is Command Shift N, the N key. And again, you would toggle between the two. So you don't have to go down here, click one, and then click on the other and keep going back and forth. Here's a keystroke. Filters. So I've chosen Snap Camera. That's just a filter that I have. And the reason that filters are becoming a little bit more popular is, okay, we've got kids at home. They have their brother, their sister, their friends that are near them, or their family members that are close to them, and then maybe everyone's at the same house at the same time when you're having this class with them. They've got their Xbox, they've got their video games, they've got the dog, they've got the llama that they've got to go and feed. They've got, all of these other activities outside of your class that are right there with them. So what I'm reading is more and more, every once in a while, being able to talk to them about, okay, so we're going to go over addition today, and so now I'm the donkey from Shrek, and who are they going to listen to? Are they going to listen to me as the teacher? Or are they going to listen to the donkey? Probably the donkey. And so they'll be a little bit more engaged. And when they get done with the donkey, maybe it's Kermit the Frog. And so they're going to learn how to do lettering or Romeo and Juliet from Kermit the Frog. So there are reasons for having filters. And again, I can work with you on that offline, but that's where you could do, instead of me using the FaceTime camera or my computer camera, I'm choosing the Snap camera. It's called Snap Camera. And Rabbit Trail, if you go to Snap Camera, do a Google search for it. It's just a slight install, and you have all sorts of options. So anyway, that's where you would change with your document camera. You can also put in a virtual background, and you can put some in that you imported. Like I imported this one. There's one. Excuse me. It's I like this one because a nice cool breeze, especially on those 100-degree days that we've had, and the beach in the background. So that's where you would go to change those. You're going to turn me off because you have me off to the side. So that's pretty much the options on the camera. On the participant, show participants. I have this choosing to be out of the off the side view. And so I just want it to be to where I can move it around where I want. But this would show all of your participants. You could mute everybody all at the same time, which is nice. You also have an option here where you can mute them upon entry. Again, you have these options that you can do. And merge, that shows where it probably is now. I don't like it there. I like being able to pop out, make my screen bigger. And if I want to see this, then I can see it, and I can just kind of hide it off in the corner. I don't always need to know who's there. You may want to see that, definitely. Other options is multiple participants can share. No, I'm sorry, that's share. That's just turning it on and off, okay? That's basically participants. You have options there. On the chat, same thing. I can choose to have it in my window, or I can choose to pop it out. Again, I choose to pop it out. I can I can chat to everyone. As a teacher, I can choose who I want to chat to here. No one. So you have options. Okay, so I'm going to shut those down. Screen sharing. Very much like the with Meets, you have options. You have basic and advanced. In basic, I can choose whichever desktop I want. I can choose the whiteboard. In Meets, Jamboard is integrated, so you would have that option. You could do, if you have something on your iPad or iPhone, you could, because I'm a Mac, for you on Windows, you would show your phone being able to project via a cable or wireless. You can choose any window you want. These are all the windows that I have open. Share computer sound. If you have a video, you're going to want to do that. Otherwise, when you share it, they're not going to hear anything. And optimize screen share, which means that the quality may degrade some, but you're going to be able to see it well and you're going to hear it well. So it's just a little bit more less bandwidth that it's using. If you go under advanced, excuse me, you can choose to only show a portion of the screen. You'll get crosshairs, and so you just click and you would drag what you want to show, and that's it only. You could choose just music, or you could show a document camera here. It's easier doing the Alt-N, Control-Shift-N, and going back and forth that way than it is to keep coming in here all the time. So that's the share. Again, make sure that just making sure you have both basic and advanced. In the breakout rooms is next. You can assign one breakout room. You can scroll up. You can put in there that I want 10. So you could type it in. You can manually put them in, or you can automatically put your participants in and create breakout room. Okay, there's the 10 that I created. I can assign, if I have students in here, I click on assign, and I can assign them to whichever breakout room I want. Again, you have more options. You can go over that. The couple of key features is you can choose breakout is going to close automatically after 5 minutes, and notify me when the time is up, so that I, as the presenter, will know, oh yeah, it's time to everyone comes back together. I can also do a countdown in the breakout room. I've been in breakout rooms where they have set this for 60 seconds, and that is excruciating when you see this countdown in your screen going 60, 59, 58, and it keeps on going for the full minute, and you can't. I mean, it's hard to get out early. So from a student side, you can do it, but it gets annoying. So typically 15 seconds is a nice round number, I guess, for the time. That's basically the breakout rooms. The next piece, reactions. There's hand clap, and you'll see it up in the left corner, and there's a thumbs up. That's the two options that you have. They will eventually go away, but I don't know what the time signature is on them. Oh, there it goes. So it is a little while. And then the last thing is the end. So we're going to end the session. You can choose to leave the meeting. If you have a co-host and you have to go somewhere, you can leave the meeting and the co-host still runs the meeting. If you are the teacher and that is it, you're ending the meeting for everyone. When you do that, all students get this window that says, basically, you've ended the meeting. And so there is not a chance that they go back and forth, chat back and forth, okay? That's all in the slide deck, as you can see. Everything's in the slide deck. And you also have in here, I don't like this view. You also have tips, some resources in here. So there's some tips and tricks. And there's another one for the Help Center for Zoom. They have tons of videos. So if you're specifically wanting, I want to know how to do polling, and you go to the help center and type in polling, then it will give you the short snippet of how to do polling. So the question is, which one do you want to choose? And which one works out best for you? Move this back over here. Any other questions? I know I went over a little bit, and I apologize. But we're Zoom is huge and just needs to have its own time for being able to go through most of the settings. Again, that's in the slide deck. If there are no other questions, I definitely want to honor your time.
There was a quick question on the filters that's available in the free version as long as you download.
So filters is separate. Filters are an add-on basically, and your computer will integrate it with your camera. So when whether you're in Meets or you're in Zoom, when you hit the video option, then one of the options there is to, in mine was, what's it called? Snap camera. And that's what you would choose. Now you have the filters available, and you would have to choose those in Snap Camera, not in Zoom.
Very good. And then one other question was about best practices, and that is if we have two teachers co-teaching, we want the students to kind of go into that Zoom meeting and then go into a breakout room where later on they want to bring all 50 of them together? Or is it best to have two different meetings and then a third meeting for all 50 of them?
Yes. If I understood, yeah, it would be, if you're co-teaching, being able to have a couple teachers be in the different meetings, that would be great. And the class, sorry, Rabbit Trail. The class code is up. That has the link. Uh-oh. You know what? Let me send that link out because I forgot to post it. It's now in the slide deck, as is the reflection for clock hours in the slide deck. So excuse me, in the classroom. So having a couple teachers being able to filter through the classrooms is definitely, yeah, the more adults that you have in a classroom or being able to do in a classroom, and if you've got some paras that are available, make them co-teachers, and then that way you can assign them classrooms as well, or they can choose. You can go and choose. I'm going to be in one. You're going to be in two. Wayne's going to be in three, and so on. So that would be an option also.
And do you feel like it would work if they were all the kids logged into one Zoom? We immediately sent them to the breakout sessions. One teacher went to one and one teacher went to the other. Yeah,
I think, yeah, that would work. Because you wouldn't have. I've been to breakouts twice. Neither time we needed to present. We just needed to chat about something and make notes on our own. So I don't know if we would need to play with it, but I don't know if, Wayne, you were in one class or one breakout room and I was in the other, if both of us could present in our individual breakout rooms with a presentation up there. I believe the breakout rooms is more just reflecting, and but again, I haven't been into where I needed to present.
Yep. It's going to be a little experimenting, I'm sure, with a lot of things.
Yep.
And I think my one thing I've seen is, and most of you already know this, is muting right away is highly important, especially as you're getting information out and not knowing what will be happening in the household. Kids
Yes.
don't always let people know they're online, and vice versa.
Yeah, and we even last spring we've had some interesting participants. Family, mom and dad not getting along, and they're just yelling and screaming at each other. There was another one where a parent was having to discipline a younger sibling, and they were off screen, but they weren't off audio. So unfortunately, there were some choice words being spoken, and again, you just want to be kind of prepared for everything. Corey, Joe, thank you. You can present in a breakout room. Good. Thank you for letting me know that. Nancy, when you're in the auditory sessions, will the filter background noise affect the teacher's computer or also the kids' computers? So in meets, the individuals have to check that. So students would need to go in, and you could guide them through, and this is where it's going to be checked. And then when they start typing on the keyboard or the dog starts barking, it's going to be muted in theirs. Is it going to affect yours? Again, if you check it, then your background noise isn't going to be heard also. We had a session the other day where somebody had to turn off their fan. It was going to be a 100-degree day, and they had a fan near them, but that background noise was just causing some distraction. So unfortunately, they had to turn that off. And so with
speaking of
distractions, so with having that on, I believe that would have filtered it out. But is it going to stop you from communicating, or is it going to stop anything with the interaction? No. You'll still be able to hear the students, and the students will be able to hear you. Another option, which if you watch the Screencastify, Rick's I'm a teacher, not a techie session, one of the recommendations was using a lapel mic. Same thing true here. If I'm presenting and I switch over to my document camera and I'm on Zoom or Meets and my document camera is off to the side and I move, my voice is going to be slightly different over here than it is over here. So now having a lapel mic when you're away from where the audio is coming from will also help with the meeting. So again, having back to the filter, the background, it would still definitely pick you up, but it would filter out the background noise. Long answer for a short question. Sorry. Anything else? Okay. Well, excuse me. As always, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. I'm planning on being in the buildings during the building days, some more than others because they've already scheduled me in. But if you or your team or your department, grade level, have questions and want to spend some one-on team time, just let me know. I'm putting my schedule together now, and I'm going to do Wednesdays. I know is going to be a hot time, so I'm going to do my schedule 30-minute increments. If you want me for 2 hours, just make sure you click on each of those 30-minute increments and schedule me. I'll send that out. I'll put that in the Google Classroom as well, and you'll get a notification on that too. But any other questions?
I just have one last thought, and that's remember that teaching your students the video conference has now probably become part of your lesson. at the beginning of the year. It will take some time to get them up and running in some different, whether it's teaching how their behavior is during it, or if it's teaching where to find this function or the next one. It kind of goes back to that thing where we might spend 20 minutes on learning to run the software, and then 10 minutes, and then 5 minutes, and that's just going to be part of what we get to deal with this year.
Unfortunately, it's a learning curve for all of us. Yes. A couple last concerning backgrounds. Never worked due to a non-flat surface behind me. That's interesting. I do have a flat surface. I'll try experimenting with that and see what happens, because it should work because of the CEO of Zoom. I think it was. There was a webinar with him, and he was sitting in his obviously $1 million home with the lots of windows behind him, with the mountains in the background and the pool. And maybe it was seeing that there was a bank of windows behind him, so it thought it was flat, but he kind of hid it by having a virtual background. But when he moved his hand, you could see the space in between that what he was hiding. But I'll look into that. Do you recommend we stay with meats, or do you find them similar? Corjo, if I was a 3rd, 5th grade teacher, I would definitely go with meets, because it's right there in classroom. And I'm not going to have my kids do a breakout. I would not, unless I had another teacher with me. And again, that feature is coming. So I like that it's integrated. Middle school, high school, I probably would still do meets because it's simple, but and I would go with the workaround for polling, and knowing that meets is going to be having a breakout room, and that's really one of the things that really separates it. The other is if Zoom and Google go back to the default free version, and Zoom goes 40 minutes, Meets would still default 60. So either way, there would have to be a paid solution if I wanted to go longer. So it's really your choice as far as what you feel comfortable with and what meets your needs. I like them both. I think that they're, Zoom is definitely have some more functionality and security in place. Google students are already logged into their Google account. They're already in your Google Classroom. That's security right there. They can change their name in Google, but you know who it is. So because you can still see their email account information off to the side. So yeah, to answer your question, in a nutshell, is yes, I find them similar. And which one would I use would be yes.
And I'd also be confident in both, never knowing if something was going to be down or if there's a streaming issue with one over the other and that kind of thing. So you may have your favorite, but I'd probably be able to do both.
Great to have a backup. Good suggestion. All righty. Well, thank you all very much. This will be posted and available as soon as we end the broadcast. And we will have it downloaded and put into the Teaching and Learning YouTube account sometime this week. So you may see 2 of them in there at one time, but eventually it will just go to the one. So do I understand Meets is limited to 16 participants now? 16 that you can see on the screen. You can still have 100 people in a Zoom meeting, but you can only see 16 at a time. Whereas in Zoom, you get 28, I think it is. I forgot what that number is right offhand. But that will also be increasing in meets. Let me go back to that. That release date. 49. It's 49 on the screen in Zoom, and it will be 49 in September. So sometime in September, meets will increase to 49 from 16. But you can have 100 people in a meet, and I believe it's 100 in Zoom also. So good questions.
And the app versions significantly limit you. You may want to make sure you're running on a computer versus an iPad or something like that.
Yeah, this is all under the assumption that you're going to be using your laptop for the meetings. So, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And hopefully we'll see most of you tomorrow for the Remind, and maybe some of you for the Seesaw exploration. And have a good day. Stay safe.